Hello, IELTS aspirants. Welcome to IELTS Endeavour. And today we will be discussing another writing task too, which is your essay. The topic of this essay is the world today is a safer place than it was 100 years ago, and governments should stop spending large amounts of money on their armed forces. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Once again, let's go through the topic. The topic gives us a statement. This is the statement, which I have put between quotes. The world today is a safer place than it was 100 years ago. So the statement makes a comparison between today's world and a century ago and says that today we are safer. And as a consequence, governments should stop spending large amounts of money on their armed forces. So this is your statement. The question is, to what extent do you agree or disagree? First thing is you have to decide whether you agree or you disagree. And second thing you have to decide is to what degree. All right. So do you strongly agree? Do you strongly disagree? That way. Now, this is clearly an opinion based essay since we have agree or disagree, right? We have to attempt it in 250 words minimum. You cannot fall below your 250 words limit because that is the word limit you need to achieve a proper band score. If you fall below, your marks will be automatically deducted. So please, you can go above this limit, like you can go to 270, 290, but do not fall below 250 words. And no need of expertise. You don't need to be any kind of an expert on world safety or on defense spending or on wars in general. You just need to be very well versed in your vocabulary and even more importantly, your grammar. So impeccable grammar and a sprinkling of vocabulary, 250 words minimum, and no need of expertise. And you have to write this essay in roughly 40 minutes. All right. So this is your topic. Once again, the world today is a safer place than it was 100 years ago, and governments should stop spending large amounts of money on their armed forces. To what extent do you agree or disagree? Let's see how to attempt this essay. So we are going to attempt this essay in 5 paragraphs because we have to talk about all opinions. So, para 1 will be a short introduction. What are we going to do in the introduction? Ease into the topic. First thing. And we have to state our stance. So, state your stance. Stance is where do you stand? Your opinion. What is coming next? You have to tell your examiner that this is what I think in one line, and then we will explain with points in the body of the essay. So let's look at an introduction which I have prepared for you. In recent decades, it said these days, the world today, so we have used in recent decades, it has become increasingly common to argue that the world is safer than it was a century ago, right? So this takes from your statement in the topic itself, in the question. So, in recent decades, it has become increasingly common to argue that the world is safer than it was a century ago, leading some to suggest that governments should significantly reduce expenditure on their armed forces. So, you can see some parallels here in recent decades. So, in the topic, we had a safer place. The world today is a safer place. Here we have in recent decades. It has become increasingly common to argue that the world is a safer place than it was 100 years ago over here and a century ago, leading some to suggest that governments should significantly reduce expenditure. Stop spending large amounts has turned into significantly reduce expenditure on their armed forces. While it is true that certain aspects of global stability have improved, so we are giving them a little bit of leeway that yes, some aspects of global stability have improved, but I strongly disagree. So, this is the stance we are talking about. I strongly disagree with the notion is the opinion, the idea, that military spending should be curtailed as modern threats remain complex, unpredictable, and potentially devastating. I will be discussing vocabulary at the end of the essay, so do not panic if some word gets left out. So we have written this whole thing in basically 2 lines, this introduction. This is line number 1, in which we have restated what was in the topic in our own words. And the second line is your own opinion, right? In recent decades, it has become increasingly common to argue that the world is safer than it was a century ago, leading some to suggest that governments should significantly reduce expenditure on their armed forces. Second line is your opinion. While it is true that certain aspects of global stability have improved, I strongly disagree with the notion that military spending should be curtailed as modern threats remain complex, unpredictable, and potentially devastating. This is paragraph 1 done in 2 lines. Now, let's move to the body of the essay, where we shall start giving reasons. Paragraph 2 is about the statement. Why do some people think that army spending should be curtailed? Why do some people think that it will not matter if we stop having smaller armies, for example? So we have to talk about the statement in para 2. So this is one side of the argument. Therefore, we will start with on the one hand. Please remember, it's on the one hand. On the one hand, there is compelling evidence that the world has, in some respects, become less violent. We are not saying it's universally less violent. We are saying in some respects, become less violent. Large-scale conflicts between major powers have become relatively rare compared to the early 20th century, which witnessed 2 catastrophic world wars. So we are now comparing today's world to what it was 100 years ago, and we are saying that yes, large-scale conflicts between very big powers are very few now. Those things don't happen. They are relatively rare compared to the world wars which happened in the 20th century. Now, advances, like we have to tell why this is happening. So, advances in diplomacy, international cooperation, and institutions such as the United Nations have contributed to a more stable global order. So why did we go from having world wars to not having major conflicts? Because of diplomacy, international cooperation, and United Nations. Additionally, now we are making one more point in this paragraph. In the same vein, therefore, the word should be additionally, comma. So, additionally, improvements in technology, healthcare, and living standards have enhanced overall human security, reducing mortality rates, and increasing the life expectancy worldwide. Right? So, what are the things which have made us more secure in life? We have better technology, therefore, better healthcare, better living standards, and humans feel more secure. They don't feel like if they have a small problem, they are going to die of it. Mortality rates have significantly reduced, and has increased the life expectancy worldwide. So, this is in addition to these 2 points, that there are no major world conflicts now. Like, big powers do not indulge in full on warfare like the World War One and World War Two. There can be cold wars, there can be skirmishes. Skirmishes are smaller battles which are fought on very particular fronts. There are tensions which are there in geographic areas, but in this paragraph, we can clearly see that we don't have world wars happening at this point in time. Now, coming to para 3. Now we have to start giving statements for our opinion, or let's say your opinion. So we have chosen that we strongly disagree that army spending should be curtailed. Strongly disagree. So now we have to go on the other hand and explain why we should not stop spending. So we will start with however, comma, which basically means but. We are giving now the opposite side, the other hand. However, this perceived safety, we are telling that this is not actual safety, which we have mentioned in para 2. This is perceived safety. We feel safe, but we may not actually be safe. However, this perceived safety is neither absolute nor guaranteed. It is not 100% safe, and there is no guarantee that we are actually safe. The nature of conflict has evolved rather than disappeared. So the type of wars we are fighting now have changed. It's not about grenades being launched all the time. It may be a different type of warfare. Warfare has evolved rather than disappeared. Contemporary threats, today's threats, such as cyber warfare, terrorism, nuclear proliferation, present risks that are less visible but equally, if not more, dangerous. So, we are telling that the type of warfare has changed. That does not mean we are completely safe from effects. In fact, we may be at a greater danger than the world was. For instance, a single cyber attack can cripple national infrastructure, while the existence of nuclear weapons ensures that any large scale conflict could have catastrophic consequences. We know that one nuclear weapon is capable of destroying an entire city. So it's no longer about how things are visible. The radiation of a nuclear weapon, even after it detonates, goes on and on for God knows how many decades, and that zone becomes unlivable. So there are catastrophic consequences of today's weapons also. In this context, maintaining a strong and well funded military acts as a deterrent. It prevents things from happening, it prevents any type of conflict from escalating, it prevents aggression and preserving national sovereignty. In this context, maintaining a strong and well funded military acts as a deterrent, preventing aggression and preserving national sovereignty. Your ability to rule yourself is preserved. Now we are adding more to the same points which we have already given. Upcoming is para 4. Once again, your opinion. We have more points, therefore we have taken one more paragraph instead of making one huge paragraph. And we are continuing whatever was said above. So we will start with furthermore, comma. Additionally, furthermore, also, comma mean the same thing, which means we are adding to the previous point. Furthermore, reducing military expenditure could leave nations vulnerable in an increasingly multipolar world. So we can become vulnerable, we can become weaker, in a weaker position if we start reducing military expenditure. So furthermore, reducing military expenditure could leave nations vulnerable in an increasingly multipolar world where geographical tensions persist. So geographically, there are still problems. There's a problem between Ukraine and Russia. There's the problem in the Middle East, the Irani and Israeli war is still going on, and there are other tensions between China and Taiwan. There are tensions between India and Pakistan. So there are world tensions everywhere. So if we start reducing military expenditure, then instead of just tension being there, actual wars may start happening. History has repeatedly shown that weakness can invite conflict. So if one party thinks the other one does not have a strong enough army, they think they can attack. So history has repeatedly shown that weakness can invite conflict rather than prevent it. Having an armed force will deter other people, will prevent them from attacking. But not having one or having a weaker one can actually invite conflict. Armed forces also play a crucial role beyond warfare, including disaster relief, peacekeeping missions, and humanitarian assistance. So, army is not just for fighting wars. There are other very crucial roles they play, which is beyond warfare, is disaster relief, peacekeeping missions, and humanitarian assistance. Thus, thus, their importance extends well beyond traditional defense. So we need an army for more than just fighting wars. Okay, so we cannot reduce expenditure. This was our fourth paragraph. Now we come to a conclusion. The conclusion has to be, excuse me. So this is para 5, conclusion, and it has to be short and very decisive or precise. You have to say within 1 to 2 lines whatever you need to say to sum up your essay. We start with, in conclusion, comma, although the world may appear, it is not. Now we have changed our language from the introduction. In the introduction, we were stating that the world is a safer place. But no, after giving all our points, we say the world may appear safer in certain respects than it was 100 years ago. This does not justify a reduction in military spending. We have restated our opinion. On the contrary, the evolving nature of global threats necessitates continued investment in defense to ensure long-term stability and security. Okay, so here we have summed it up. Let me talk about a little bit of vocabulary now. I have been explaining a few words as we went along, but let's look at, for example, curtailed. We used this in the first paragraph. Curtailed means reduced. So military spending should not be curtailed, right? Unpredictable, we know. Unpredictable means something that is not certain. You don't know if it will happen or not happen. Safety, the illusion of safety in today's times is rather unpredictable. Proliferation. Variation. We keep talking about nuclear proliferation. So, what does proliferation means? It means a rapid increase. So, nuclear proliferation will mean that there is a rapid increase in the number of nuclear weapons, right? And then we have devastating or catastrophic, we have been using. Both these words mean the same thing, causing great harm. Not just small harm, but very great harm. And then there was sovereignty, which means your ability to govern yourself. Like a country is not under somebody else's rule, it is under their own rule. So that is sovereignty. Armies help to maintain sovereignty. All right. So this is your essay for today. Please go through it before you go for your exam. This is quite a current topic because we have wars going on since the Ukraine-Russia war, the skirmishes, and the actual hot warfare which has been going on. So this type of topic could come, and you can use points from this particular essay, or in case you find a similar topic, you can actually use all these points. And do not forget to sprinkle some vocabulary. You don't have to fill the whole essay with vocabulary, that will not sit well. You can sprinkle a little. Think of vocabulary like salt. You need a little salt to make your dish tasty. You don't need to fill it up with salt, all right? But make sure that your grammar is impeccable. So if you need any personal tutorial, personal assistance, just write to me in the email which I will be providing after this. The email is IELTS correction tips at gmail.com. I repeat, IELTS correction tips at gmail.com. You can send me an email here, okay? Or you can please comment below and I will also answer whatever queries you may have over there. All right. And I wish you luck. I wish you get the score you desire. And please don't forget to share this video with other people who are giving this exam. This is valid for both your general as well as your academic exams. And well, all the best. Like this video, share, subscribe to the channel, and I shall be posting more such content very regularly. Thank you very much.